Right. All right.
So, good afternoon, Brother Terry.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, mommy.
So, we are here with Brother Terry Lee Watson
Yes.
at the Soulful Chicago Book Fair
Yes.
that was established by Asada Kirkland.
Yeah.
And it has been a phenomenal event, despite the fact that we had a little competition with the Bud Billiken Day Parade. But it's all good. And we know that everybody who's supposed to be here is definitely here.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
thank you so much, Brother Terry, for coming to join us to talk about your book. It sounds really amazing. Welcome to the sick mind of the same person,
Yes.
Deconstructing Racism and White Supremacy.
Yes.
Now that's a mouthful. Now, would you tell us a little bit about your background? What is your profession, and how were you inspired to write such a book as this?
Absolutely. So my background is really in academia, and I actually worked in disability advocacy. And so when I was thinking about my first book, everyone knows about disability advocacy. But I couldn't ignore the race conversations in America. So as I was going around the country doing trainings and workshops, race constantly kept coming up, right? So I started doing trainings roughly about, I'm pretty much my whole life, but, on a professional level about 20, 25 years ago. And someone said to me, you know what? You should write a book on your experiences as you're doing this training, right? So I started writing poetry at first, and then I started writing down short stories and essays. And so that's what I came up with this book. It's 10 years in the making. Welcome to the Sick Mind. The funny part about it, too, is I told the publisher, I said, I will take any advice about the contents in the book, and the title must stay the same. Because I wanted to make sure that when I was speaking to my people, I wanted to make sure they understood exactly the point I was coming from.
Did you, by any chance, get any pushback from that idea? Did they try to discourage your desire for this title?
There was one meeting in which that happened, and I did say, I said to them, I said, well, anyone that tries to discourage me from publishing this book with this title won't be my publisher anymore. And I was in that conversation.
Excellent, excellent.
Yes.
Well, congratulations on that.
Yes.
And I think many of us, I know that many of us have had similar experiences where we've wanted to speak truth.
Yes.
But people who were in positions of power
Yes.
Or authority over the operation or the apparatus with which we were trying to move through would try to put blockers on there. But that's been a historical case for us, hasn't it?
It is.
So ever since we were brought here from Africa, you go two steps up and somebody kicks you, to the point where so many people thought that Tulsa, that the massacre of Tulsa, it was just Tulsa, not recognizing that there were massacres across the entire country for at least 2 years.
Exactly.
Within that same period around 1919.
1919. The red summer of 1919, I covered that in my book too. It's something that most people don't understand. That when we say this is a generational trauma, it's generational, right?
That's right.
And we can track it as back as far as before, 19, 1492. You can track it before the slave ships coming here. That trauma on his hand. So when I was writing this book, I was very mindful of that too. Right? Making sure that when people are reading this book, they understand that this is not about what you see listen to today, but it's also copy from what we saw from our history. So I enjoyed pouring my heart onto this book. I had no expectations except to see the word out there. I was very happy that people were resonating with it. It's on its fifth literary award. Yes, it's just people have been, and so if people are just contacting me saying, Mr. Watson, I had these feelings, but I didn't have the words to put it, to put it into it. And that's what they're finding in this book.
I've had conversations with people and have shared different things with them, and they've ended up saying, well, our kids don't learn this in the schools. What you just said, And I said, that's why I'm a storyteller.
That's why
and if I didn't mention it to you as I was introducing you, as Mama Edie, I am a professional storyteller.
Yes.
Doing bilingual storytelling in Spanish and English. Because I recognized as I was doing performances, sometimes there were children who simply looked lost.
Yes.
And I recognized that it was the language thing. Yes. So I flipped. I started adding Spanish in that performance. And then the light came on in their eyes. So I've been doing bilingual storytelling ever since because I never want anybody to feel that.
I love that. I love that. I love and storytelling is important too. And I think that's one thing that I my shirt I'm wearing, truth, justice, liberation. So our whole platform at SOJ is about storytelling. It really is about storytelling. It's our slogan is empowering the future with untold history. And we look for we look for people who are willing to tell their stories and able to connect with a new generation, right? Because a lot of young people do not know what even their grandparents went through, let alone before then. So storytelling is everything.
I sure. And and I'll mention, I'm not sure what our time is looking like, but I'll mention too that I recently did an adaptation of a story on one of the people who had gone through the Little Calumet River Underground Railroad. And the response that I got from one of our European American comrades in response to it was that there was a section that I had that talked about, you were talking about how the trauma was generational.
Right.
And my contention is that not only is the trauma generational based upon the travesty that was affected upon our ancestors, so it's passed on generation after generation, but also the spirit of those people who thought that it was okay for them to take people from their homes in Africa and bring them here and to totally take over somebody else's land and to kill them. Actually, that same spirit was also generational, and it continues to live in people, in their descendants today. So we've got the generational trauma from the African perspective, and we have the continuation of this sense of privilege and sense of ownership. That everything and everyone belongs to me as long as I can take it. And so helping people to brace themselves against that kind of reality is something that I believe needs to be enforced through storytelling. And for example, like the story that it was kind of like a travel log, as it was. Like her name was Caroline Quarles. So Caroline Quarles, she came from St. Louis, and she went to Galena, and then she went here, then she went there, and she ends up in Canada. Well, fine. But what does that have to do with me? Why are we telling this story? So to me, there needed to be a reason beyond sharing what is a novel travelogue. There needs to be a reason that would allow us that would encourage us to want to connect with her story. And what does she have to say to us today that can encourage us to hold on and to keep moving forward? So,
what I do, I love that part because when I was in this book, I was thinking about all those aspects, like sharing our story, making sure that our stories were connecting with the new generation, but also making sure that the older generation knew what the younger generation was doing too. I'll share one piece from this. One of my favorite ones. So when I was at a talk one time listening to two individuals, Dr. Jordan Guerrero and Tim Wise, have a discussion. And I wrote this piece right here. So I said, as a boy, I spent a lot of time by myself. I like that. As you know already, I had an odd connection, which I talked about my book too. And as a boy, I did a lot of thinking. The projects made it so that going outside was not always possible. And because of that, friends were few and far between. I remember taking the graffiti 18 to Broadway and being in awe of the shopping strip. But the one thing that always interested me was the people I encountered. As a 9-year-old, I always wondered about the origin of this community. In the 80s, I remember old folks always talking about how nice it used to be, and how the doors open without fear of being harmed or bothered. Everyone was a friendly neighbor. I remember the old woman who was upstairs who made the most intoxicating rum cake, no lie. My mother told me not to eat it because it made me drunk. I didn't believe her, and I tried some anyway. My mother's best friend, she had a daughter my age, used to drink oatmeal out the paper bag and listen to the blues. She was the only person I knew who made burgers in the oven, which made them bland and dry. She'd sit from her paper bag, close her eyes, and nod to the music. As a child, I never understood why she kept the can in a bag in her own home. That made sense if you're outside, but in your own home. But I remember all these things, all these people, and I remember how ashamed they were of their youth. They would talk about their generation as if it was a lost cause. This new hip hop, this crack, this gold, never to be associated with them. They would talk about their sons and their daughters and evil they committed. They would watch the news and see black boys being shot in the cop cars. These folks would shake their heads and say, "It's a damn shame." They would blame crack for destroying the community and the new generation. Well, it was hopeless. I think Clinton would describe it as super predators. But at the same time, they would talk about white folks differently, how proper they were and how they lived. White folks would allow this in their community. Sometimes I would overhear them plan their escape. If I won a lottery, I'll leave the projects and live in a nice house in a white neighborhood. Even as a boy, this was a great contradiction to my consciousness. I was young and didn't have the knowledge I possess today. I did not know about the legacy. Sorry. I didn't know about the legacy and the characteristics of white supremacy. So I sat listening to that scholarly discussion, and I was taken back to that time when I was surrounded by my people, black people, as they too had whiteness up on a pedestal. Breaking not the chains that bound us mentally, but strengthening it. The adults around us mortgaged our minds and deposited our sickness in the escrow of slavery. So I titled this moment, "Have Joy and Be Wise." Be still, people, my people. Take pride in your house. Take peace in a place you dwell, and let it bring you joy, much joy. Be genuine, people, my people. Revisit your space of contentment. Allow your space to be your own, and own the ambiance that's still. Be courageous, people, my people. Take with you your armor if you will. Be where you are, and where you are, remain peaceful still. But yet be wise. Know what you say, we are listening. What you do, we are watching, ready to pass on what you leave us.
I should.
Yes.
I should.
And I was one of the pieces that I wrote, I was just, got fulfilled. And I wanted to make sure that it's not, I look at generation trauma and I always say, I think about the ancestors, I think about my forefathers, I think about my father, right? And I think about all that they endured to start to be where I am right now, right? And I think for young people, I want to make sure they understand that we are that strength still, and we are that people. And even as there's elements in a society that's trying to erase our history, erase our stories, we must not let that happen.
Well, that's so beautiful.
Yes.
It was so powerful, and it was so easily connective.
Yeah.
Because the images that you had there, the emotions that you inspired, were images that most of us have experienced,
Yes.
and the feelings
Yes.
were feelings that most of us have had. I'll share that talking about the generations.
Mhm.
When we look at the somewhat of a disconnect across generations and what have you. And years ago, I started having conversations with some close friends. We have a council of elders here in Chicago. And as I felt myself moving in the direction of becoming an elder, I found myself asking myself, so what will my responsibility actually be as an elder in my community? When we live in a time where there's so much digitization and so much individualization.
Right.
I remember going to parties with young people where a young man would come and ask a young lady to dance with him, and there were mirrors around, and the two of them would go separate. They'd be side by side, but they'd be dancing with themselves in the mirror. And then when the song was over, he'd come to her and say thank you, walk her back to her seat, and I said, well, what was that? So talk about a disconnect. But there's a sister, I've had these conversations with several people, and there's a sister, Kadik Sise, wonderful sister, who promoted a lot of, encouraged a lot of us to start our sisterhoods. And so we ended up creating a council of sisterhoods.
Oh.
And it was phenomenal. And even though we no longer have monthly meetings, we're still there for each other.
Right.
Over 40 years later, almost 50 years later. And we're scattered. We're in Cincinnati, we're in Milwaukee, we're so many places. And so, but the point is that I wanted us to have conversations about our responsibility as elders.
Right.
What do we think those responsibilities are to our young people and to ourselves?
Right.
And for those to our young people, if there's something that we'd like for them to learn or to grasp, how do we reach them in a way where they will listen? And one of the keys is to remain open to the importance of us also listening to them.
Yes.
So we started having intergenerational conversations.
I love that. Yes.
So that's happening.
I love that.
So
I love that.
So I'm not sure about our time. Are we good?
Well, thank you so much. This is fantastic. Yes, yes. I'm happy to be back in Chicago. It's my third time.
Okay, and where are you living now?
I'm in Pennsylvania.
Are you in Pennsylvania?
I'm in Pennsylvania.
Welcome back to Chicago.
Yes, thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
and I'm so happy that you made it a point to come to the Soulful Chicago Book Fair.
Absolutely, absolutely.
We've had a glorious day. We got rained out one year.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Lord have mercy. And we've had all kinds of interesting drama, in terms of this don't work and that didn't come. But we make it work. We make it work, So, and I always say, there's power in the breath.
Yes, indeed. Yes,
I breathe my way through so many situations. It's not even funny.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you again.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes.
Okay, peace and blessings to you.
You too.
And all the very best.
You too.
Thank you.